Welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Natasha Martinez, and this is the daily show where we give you all of the latest news in the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. It's Friday, so as usual, joining us is Dennis Zen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of Collider Movie Talk. It is Friday, and I am so happy.
Also joining us, Kristian Harloff.
Why are you happy? Yeah,
because it's Friday.
It's over. It's over. This is it. You're like, I'm out of here. As soon as it's over, I'm gone.
And our special guest, John Rocha.
Hey, gang. Glad to be back. Thanks for having me back on. I'm looking forward to talking some movies.
All right, let's get into it. Dwayne Johnson's heroic leading man, Raymond Gaines, looks to be returning in a San Andreas sequel, according to a report from The Hollywood Reporter. Johnson and New Line are developing a sequel after the original crossed $473 million internationally last year. New Line has hired Blacklist scribes Neil Widener and Gavin James to write the script, taking over for Carlton Cruz, Andre Fabrizio, and Jeremy Passmore, who penned the first film. Much of the original team is expected to return for the second installment. Dennis, do you think there is more story left to be told in a San Andreas sequel?
Well, I'm a big fan of The Rock. I just don't see what story left they have. They have him in this one. He reunites with his family, with his divorced wife and his daughter. And then he saves the day. And we have this big earthquake on the San Andreas Fault. Where do they go from here? I don't understand, because obviously he's not going to get his job back as a rescue operator, because he kind of ditched out like when he was supposed to go save other people. He's like, now I'm going to go save my ex-wife and my daughter. So he can't have that job anymore. And then with the title San Andreas, I mentioned this before, like they kind of painted themselves into a corner with that title, because now it's like everything has to be related to that. So how? Because normally in a sequel like this, you're going to move on to a different location or a different thing. How are they going to move on from San Andreas so that we have something different for the next time? Kristian?
I agree with you. I think I'd like to see him go in a totally different direction, to where it's almost like there's not going to be another earthquake. Although, strangely enough, I had a dream about an earthquake last night. But to see them go somewhere to where there's like a new government now. You remember all those movies, the post-apocalyptic movies, where like after the big earthquake, this happened, and there was like the renegades. What if they took it in a totally different direction? Like whatever the next movie was, if they focused more on bigger characters or bigger story. It's the first movie, San Andreas, was fun. It was fun, but there's nothing more. I don't know how you get a sequel out of it, but if there's going to be but now there's going to be a big earthquake or a tornado or something somewhere else, who the hell knows? But I would like to see them get away from the disaster thing, focus on the Rock story, and maybe make it like a kind of crazy action movie.
Yeah, well, initially they're talking about it being in the Ring of Fire in the Pacific Ocean, which is this area that has multiple dormant and active volcanoes. So they're just taking one. So they're just taking one idea of an earthquake, and then they're just going to the next level with it, which is what a sequel is going to do. Obviously, I'm just glad that he finally got it right with Carla Gugino, who he keeps casting as his wife or ex-wife in films, and I think they have a nice chemistry. So I think this will work. And I enjoyed the first one. I mean, it was pretty much a American flag waving type of movie, and he like didn't save anybody else but his family for the most part throughout the film, even though he's supposed to save a bunch of people. But so we'll see. I think it should be fun, if nothing else. And they're upping the ante, so it'll be interesting to see how volcanoes factor in and I would just wonder if they're going to call it San Andreas. Are they still going to call it San Andreas?
I mean, I assume so, because it's all about name recognition,
brand, yeah.
right? So they have to tie in somehow. Maybe they'll say an earthquake in San Andreas ignites another fault line that launches off into that Ring of Fire.
And they go, not again.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought the movie was okay. It's disaster porn. It's disaster porn.
So.
They have to make it bigger and better, and I understand why they're making another one. The first one made
$471 million.
A lot of money. It's not like they're going to go in depth with this character at all.
Right.
Like, people didn't watch this for the story or the character development of The Rock.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll wait till I see another trailer or the first trailer for it. Yeah. All right, what's next?
Alcon Entertainment, the studio behind the next installment to the cult favorite Blade Runner, has finally dated the release in a very odd place, Martin Luther King weekend, January 12th, 2018. The movie is the brainchild of original director Ridley Scott, who who enlisted Blade Runner co-writer Hampton Fancher to pen the script alongside Michael Green. Prisoners and Sicario director Denis Villeneuve will take the helm that will see the return of Harrison Ford's Rick Deckard alongside a new character played by Ryan Gosling. Kristian, what do you think of the January release date for Blade Runner 2?
It's concerning. I always, like January, like it's one thing when Kung Fu Panda 3 comes out in January because that's the animation and it worked for it. And I was even skeptical about that coming out in January, but that it worked. It was the third movie. Blade Runner, by all accounts, is beloved by many, but didn't do big box office numbers in '82, I think, when it came out. It's grown an audience throughout VHS and DVD and Blu-ray nowadays, but the movie itself is more like that's why I hesitance to put it in the summer and even in. I would think it would be a perfect place for like October or even November or something. But to put it in January with Denis Villeneuve there, that January movie for that guy, what this says to me is that Alcon has no more money. Who's doing this movie because they put out Point Break. And that thing was a disaster movie. Yeah. It was. I mean, the movie cost almost $200 million or something close to me. Something close to that with marketing and everything. Yes.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. It close to $200 million plus all this stuff. I know you're offended and you should be because it was ridiculous and they took a shot on it, which the decision makers over there were horribly wrong to do so. I've taken cracks at one of the higher ups there, and I'll do it again. The guy is making bad decisions, and that's why. And it's probably why they can't put enough marketing into this movie, and they can't put enough I don't know production or whatever it is to put it out in January. What are you doing? It's Harrison Ford. I don't know.
Rocha.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kristian. I think it should fall in later in the year, in the fall. It's going to be a rainy noir like the original, so logically it would make sense to put it. That's kind of more the vibe that you want to put it in. The movie audiences go with that kind of feeling into the theater. So I think that makes perfect sense to do it then. So it's odd to be released. I mean, is there a record they're trying to break here? I don't understand why they would do it. Plus, Villeneuve is coming off one of the best films of the year last year, in my opinion, Sicario. Yeah. So why not give him more of a showcase and more of an opportunity to be seen, to have his work seen by more people? It seems like it might die on the vine. I mean, it has a great following, but I don't know if they're going to come out in January. It just seems an odd time.
Yeah, the key word for me is odd versus concerning, and I'll explain why later. But yeah, okay, we look at Blade Runner. It's probably not going to be a big blockbuster. It can't compete against the summer movies, right? Why not have it out in October or November where Denis Villeneuve's other movies like Sicario and Prisoners were launched and did decently well. It's not going to be maybe an Oscar movie, but at least that audience will look for that movie then.
And those movies didn't have brand recognition.
No, not at all. The reason why I don't think it's concerning in the sense of they haven't even started shooting. Usually when they move like a release date to January or something like that, it's usually the movie's already been done. They either like have a rough cut of it or it's in final stages, and they move it towards like a really crappy time because they're like, forget it, let's just dump it here. Yeah. This movie hasn't even started production yet, so I feel like it's less a reflection on the quality of the movie and just more what you're talking about.
The money.
Yeah, they don't have the money for it.
That's more the concerning for me is because going off of John's point, I think that because they don't have the money or being able to do it, and I think they have the deal with Warner Brothers, so maybe Warner Brothers could push it or something too, but like the director's getting screwed.
Yeah.
And Harrison Ford's going to get screwed because January it's a dumping ground. Regardless, it is. And it's even if it does well in January, it's not going to have the kind of numbers that it might have somewhere else as Blade Runner 2 should have. So I just think it's weird.
You're saying it's being distributed by WB?
Because I think that's who their deals with, unless WB cut them. But I think because that's who Point Break was with, and I think Alcon has their deal with Warner Brothers.
So do you think Warner Brothers can step in and maybe say, look, man, especially after the movie gets going, say, hey, let's move
push
this
it. I'm sure they had a decision, and because I'm sure right now with Warner Brothers looking at Alcon, you just cost, maybe the studio had to put in some money, and we dropped some money on Point Break also. They're not trusted right now, so maybe that's one of the reasons they don't trust the decision makers over there.
And also, won't it be a month? Will only be a month into the run of the newest Star Wars? So won't that affect its box office? Even a month later, as we see the new Star Wars is still gaining traction.
Which Star Wars will be out by then, though?
Because it'll be 2018.
Which one? Where?
Episode 1. Episode 8, right?
Episode 8 will be, next? Are we talking about next year?
No, it's 2018.
It'll be
2018.
Yeah.
It'll be episode 8.
Yeah.
So I think it'll still be doing box office.
What percentage chance do you think they're going to move this date?
Oh.
No, it's 18. Sorry, 2018 is Han Solo.
Is it?
Yeah, 2016 is Rogue One, 17 is Episode 8, and 18
Yeah,
is...
but
that's
it's
what
going
I'm
to bleed
saying.
over, though.
It's gonna bleed over.
To January.
Right.
January of 2018.
But what percentage chance do you say they're going to move? Because I say I give it a 70% chance they're going to move this date.
Probably like Marvel did, and like other studios have done recently, move their stuff to not compete or to do, like taking the temperature of the market and moving it. I think 80%, in my opinion, like I think it has to move. I think eventually the groundswell, now that they've announced it, the groundswell of people who don't like it, like we're talking about it on the show, will probably take over because we're the ones that are going to go see it. So logically, you know.
Kristian?
As far as...
Percentage chance that they're going to move from this January 12th date or whatever.
I don't think much.
Really?
No, I don't think they're going to move because the money rise, and Alcon's just not trusted right now. So I'd say 15% chance that they move.
All right, on to the next story.
Disney will be reviving one of their most iconic characters with a new Mary Poppins movie, and now, thanks to a report from Variety, it looks like Emily Blunt is in talks to take up the umbrella in the latest reimagining. The report also confirms the new Mary Poppins film will take place 20 years after the original in Depression-era London, and will draw its source material from existing works by original author P.L. Travers' book series. Rocha, are you excited for a Mary Poppins movie starring Emily Blunt?
I actually am. I mean, as much as a grown man could be excited about a Mary Poppins movie, I think I'm pretty excited. Emily Blunt, I'm such a huge fan of hers because I've seen her do so many different genres effectively. Drama, romantic comedy, even romantic comedies that don't work. She is so dedicated and committed to it. You just respect her as an actress, and she's interesting to watch. And I think this property that is so revered, so precious to a lot of people, you want to pick the right actress who can come through. And as she's shown in Into the Woods, which was good but not great, she was great in it. Mm-hmm. And I think with Mary Poppins, you're giving her another opportunity. Plus, she's British as well, so there's a lot of that built in. And plus her performance, I think I look forward to it because I want to see what she can do with the character. And it's interesting. 20 years later, what does that mean? Like, will she be Mary Poppins 20 years later, or was she one of the kids? Like, that's what I want to kind of understand what part she's going to be playing.
I mean, I'm assuming she's supposed to be Mary Poppins.
Right.
Yeah, I remember when they first announced like that they were going to do another Mary Poppins movie, and the first question everyone asks is, how do you replace Julie Andrews?
Yeah.
And that's a near impossible task. And you know what? When they brought up Emily Blunt's name, I'm like, wow, that's actually not bad. You know, it's one of those ones because she's loved by most everyone, and her taking that role, it's like, you can't hate on it, even though like you thought, oh, who are they gonna get? And I think that's a good choice. Though the Depression era London, I don't know if that's a good choice. Is she gonna be on the bottle? You know, like the super depressed alcoholic or something like that? I don't know, Kristian. What do you think of Emily Blunt taking this role?
We were talking about Beauty and the Beast, the new one, the live action. How it was perfect casting. This is also perfect casting. She embodies everything about Mary Poppins. I think the Depression era is actually great because of what Mary Poppins brings to to enlighten people and make people happy again and joyful. I think she's perfect for it. And I didn't love Into the Woods, but I thought even her character was bizarre, but she was great in the movie. And she's great in everything. But she can really, John's right, she can do everything. To see this, when I heard this yesterday that she was cast as Mary Poppins, I said, of course. It was of course, because that's the person who should be playing Mary Poppins. I think it'll be great. I think it'll be for a new generation, because I can still, if I'm going to try to show my daughter the original Mary Poppins, but I'm assuming that she'll probably, by the time she's old enough, be a little bored by it, because it's just the way that it goes now. Like some of the films, it's hard to keep some people's interest in it. I think this movie will be perfect for the new age of people who want to catch up and find out who Mary Poppins is. I think she's going to be perfect.
Natasha, what do you think of Emily Blunt as Mary Poppins?
I mean, right when I saw it, it just instantly clicked in my mind. I think she's great for it, and I'm excited to see a new reimagining. I love the story of Mary Poppins. I think it's such a classic, and so I'm really excited to see what happens.
All right, cool. Now we're on to our buy or sell segment. Natasha, what do we have first?
After dropping out of Michael Mann's biopic Ferrari, it looks as though Christian Bale has found his next project. Per Variety, Bale will re-team with his Out of the Furnace director Scott Cooper in the 1892 set Hostels. Cooper will write and direct the movie that tells the story of a legendary army captain who agrees to escort a dying Cheyenne war chief and his family back to tribal lands. Together, they must join forces to overcome the punishing landscape and hostile Comanche tribes that they encounter along the the way. Dennis Buyercell, Christian Bale re-teaming with Scott Cooper for the movie Hostels.
Oh, this is a big buy for me. I mean, I saw Out of the Furnace in the theater. It didn't do very well at the box office, but I mean, it had a great cast. You had Christian Bale, you had Casey Affleck, you had Woody Harrelson, Zoe Saldana, and they were all excellent in that film. And that's the one thing that Scott Cooper excels at. He brings out the best out of his actors. He did it in Crazy Heart with Jeff Bridges.
Oh, yeah.
He did it most recently in Black Mass with Johnny Depp and Joel Edgerton. He's going to do it again with Christian Bale. And the story sounds a little The Revenant-like, but I don't have a problem with that. Christian?
I'm going to buy it for a lot of those reasons, but I didn't love Out of the Furnace. But I do agree with you that every movie that this guy really works with actors very well, because even Black Mass, whereas the movie I thought was okay, but I thought the performance by Johnny Depp was the best we've seen him in a very long time, and you got to give that a lot of credit to the director as well. So to hear this, and I think that because of The Revenant, this movie has a better chance of success because that worked. And he's not going to have the same directing style, obviously. But I do think that this movie could be something, I'm not going to say fun, but something special for sure, because to see Bale teaming up, and Bale also, when he teams up with directors, minus I think the McGee situation, he's teaming up with guys that he knows are going to enhance what he's going to bring.
Yeah.
Rocha?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with all the points you guys are saying. I think Cooper's great with actors. I think it's great to see Kristian come back to the Westerns. I like 3:10 to Yuma. I was a big fan of that remake. And I did like Out of the Furnace, like you did, Dennis. I like what Cooper, I like the worlds that Cooper creates. He's probably uneven as a filmmaker, not as great as I like him to be, but the ideas and the plot points and the things that he creates within his movies are interesting to watch and interesting to explore. And he finds the right actors to get real deep and play the levels of what you're watching. And Christian Bale, when he finds someone who can help bring that out in him, it's fun to watch him. And if anything Christian Bale does well, it's being the odd guy out. He always plays that part really well in whatever movie he's in, playing the odd guy out. And I think this is something that it will explore, and it could echo into what's going on now. The idea of, like indigenous people being pushed out. How does that work? The government coming over. Like, there's a lot of things that could echo into what's happening now if they do it effectively.
Can we have one scene where he walks up and goes, "Where is she? Where are the Indians?"
All right, what's next?
One of the most respected screenwriters in Hollywood, Aaron Sorkin, is set to make his directorial debut with a film entitled Molly's Game. Now, thanks to a report from The Wrap, it looks like Jessica Chastain will be taking on the lead role. Chastain would play the title role of Molly Bloom, a driven world-class skier and political science major who, through a bizarre series of circumstances, ends up running an elite high-stakes poker ring for 8 years before ultimately being brought down by the FBI. Christian Buyercell, Jessica Chastain joining Aaron Sorkin's directorial debut, Molly's Game.
Buy, and I'll go broke buying it. I love Jessica Chastain. She's one of my favorites today for everything. Emily Blunt and Jessica Chastain. Again, they're going to be in that Huntsman movie, and that's one of the only reasons I'm excited for it, is because the two of them are going to be in it. But her and teaming her up with Sorkin, I loved Steve Jobs. It was one of my favorites last year, and I think that because Sorkin's writing, we know how great of a writer this guy is, but I'm very curious to see what he does as a director. And I think what better way than to get talent like Jessica Chastain to play the lead role. I love this choice.
Yeah.
Rocha?
Oh, I think it's a great choice, too. I agree with you, Kristian. Jessica Chastain is fantastic. She's also one of my favorites. There's just such a power that she brings, a stillness and a power that she brings to whatever she does. Zero Dark 30, I still think, was one of the best films, maybe top 10 films ever made about war. And she's so good to bring that out. And it'll be exciting to see what I remember reading this, because I'm such a huge sports guy. I remember reading this original story and reading about articles about this. So it's interesting to see how that's going to play, how she's going to play out and take this and make the film her own, and play the whole idea of like being an Olympic skier that doesn't make the Olympics and then stumbles into becoming this, like running this huge high stakes poker ring. And she can play drama really well and tense moments really well. And with Sorkin's dialogue, that won't be a problem for her.
So you're selling it?
I'm buying it. Just get it out of here.
No, I'm totally buying this as well. And it's great, especially for Aaron Sorkin, who's transitioning to directing. The best thing you can do is get talent. Yeah. And not only talent, you get the right fit, because Jessica Chastain will bring a toughness and charisma to the role that you need. Because if you want to believe that this world-class skier ends up being in charge and running these underground elite poker games, you have to believe that she can corral these these big power players together, and that she has a toughness that they're willing to, that she doesn't get like run over, steamrolled. And Jessica Chastain fits that role. And then in terms of Aaron Sorkin, I think like he has a good shot. I mean, I always say that actors have the best shot of transitioning to directing, more so than other fields. But I think he particularly has a good shot because he's such a big name, and he's been able to work and collaborate with directors on set. Because a lot of people, if you don't know, like on a lot of movies, once the screenwriter writes the screenplay and hands it in,
Thanks a lot, kid.
They get their paycheck and it's see you later. They don't get to go on set. They don't collaborate with the director, all that stuff. They have no influence. But he's on set actually working with the director saying, oh yeah, this is how I imagine this. And the director takes notes. And so being there, I think, gives him an edge.
That's a great point, because like even if you look at Jobs, even though that was directed by Boyle, it's that walk and talk style that Sorkin does. You felt Sorkin more than you even felt Boyle in that movie. Like you're absolutely right, because like when he's collaborating with Fincher for Social Network or whatever, he is that guy. He's been around that it becomes. He's one of those rare screenwriters that it's like it becomes a Sorkin project. You don't hear about a lot of other screenwriters. There are a few, but not like Sorkin. So I think you're absolutely right. That's going to make him a better candidate to be a pretty good director.
Yeah.
All right, guys, now we're on to our weekly segment called Box Office Predictions, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. This is the portion where we kind of predict or guess, or maybe sometimes randomly, about what's going to be the top box office, the top 5 for the weekend. Kristian, what do you got?
All right, so what do I have? Here's my top 5. I'm going to stick with Deadpool in the number 1 spot.
Oh, not Zoolander 2?
Not Zoolander 2. Zoolander 2 is the number 2 and is not even going to be in the top 5. So number 2, I actually have Risen. I think that we're going to see that movie do pretty big numbers. Kung Fu Panda I have coming in at 3. The Witch at 4, and going to be a tight race with Race at 5.
Okay, I have Deadpool also at number 1, Risen at number 2. I think the projections have maybe Kung Fu Panda at number 2, but I feel like Risen will appeal maybe even more broadly than other faith-based movies, because there is, I think, at least seeing the trailer, a little more appeal to it. Then I have Race at 3, and then The Witch I have at 4, which I won't be surprised if it goes higher than 4 as well, because I think there's
is it in enough theaters?
Yeah, it's not in a ton, but still for I think it's the most that A24 has ever gotten, which is like 1,600. Yeah. I think the word of mouth on that movie, I think it will do well. I'm planning on seeing it this weekend. I think that'll be number 4 and maybe even go higher. And number 5, I have Kung Fu Panda. I may be wrong. Kung Fu Panda may end up being number 2 this week.
Just nothing for kids to see yet.
Yeah, but for now, that's mine. Yours?
Yeah, I got Deadpool number 1, obviously, but I have Kung Fu Panda at 3 at number 2, as you were kind of referencing, Dennis. But I have Risen at number 3 because I think there's for the faith-based people, they've shown that they will come out for movies that aren't even that good. And so something like this that's getting good reviews, getting good buzz, at least middling good buzz from respected critics, speaks well for the film, and I'm going to go see it actually this afternoon. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see this film. So I know that people who are kind of maybe out of the mainstream of the Christianity or the faith-based audience will want to go see it.
He's an Oscar-nominated actor too.
Yeah, right. Joseph Fiennes, who people have been waiting to see in a good film, probably since Shakespeare in Love. You know, he hasn't quite nailed it yet. I think
Is he playing Michael Jackson? Also?
Yeah, he was cast as Michael Jackson. So that'll be interesting, to say the least.
It'll be interesting to see if he does like a Michael Jackson cameo, like in anything. Yeah.
I have Race at number 4. I just don't feel like it's grabbing the audience quite as well as other more African-American based films have in the past. So I feel like this one's even though the Jesse Owens story is an awesome story, it's been done so many different times. And I don't know if anything about this one is all that different. Plus, I don't really buy Jason Sudeikis as his coach. It just doesn't ring true to me.
That's actually the part I'm looking forward to.
Really?
Yeah. He surprises me, because even when that We're the Millers, not that if this is a drama, I mean, even Drinking Buddies is another one too. Was he? And like, so he's a guy that I think has more than we give credit to. Mm-hmm. I think that he's going to wind up being a dude that does kind of, not right away, but if he starts doing kind of going down the road of what like Steve Carell and Jim Carrey did, not that he's as big a stars as those guys, but still just starting in the comedy realm and then hitting dramas, I think we got a good chance to see that.
Yeah, I'm sure you're making a great point. And the race could rise up. Mm-hmm. I mean, it depends on if it touches the African-American community, who is another community that's now showing that they will come out in force for films that appeal to them. And I have Witch at number 5. I think the theaters thing affects it, but it has such great reviews. I can't wait to see this thing, and I think a lot of people can't wait to see it. And horror has shown that if you do a good horror, people will come see it. So it might go higher up but for right now, that's what I see.
Okay. All right, guys, before we get on to mailbag, I want to remind you we're going to take your live Twitter questions at the end of the show. Natasha will pick them out. You can tweet us at Collider Video. For now, let's go on to mailbag. Natasha, what do we got?
Dave Perez writes, "Hello, Collider. First, let me just thank you all for providing the best and most enjoyable source of entertainment news for so many like me. Are there any lesser known / underrated films that are special to you for emotional reasons, good or bad? Maybe it reminds you of a specific moment in your life, or you just happened to see it at a time where you were experiencing something similar. For me, one particular film is the 1993 Michael Keaton film, My Life, in which he begins videotaping lessons for his unborn child because he has terminal cancer. It is particularly memorable for me because I first saw it during my own father's battle with cancer, which he sadly lost soon after. Thank you, and keep on keeping on."
I have a similar situation as Dave. The movie 50-50 for me has a special place in my heart because I had a family member that was going through a similar thing, and just watching that movie, everyone thinks of it as a comedy because it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen, but there's a lot of dramatic elements to it, and especially the end. Have you guys seen the movie?
Oh, yeah.
At all?
It's a great movie.
The ending before he goes into surgery with his mom and his dad, I got choked up a lot just seeing that scene. I mean, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, his acting performance just in that little short moment just really, really touched me. So that's mine.
Young at Heart. I bring it up all the time. Young at Heart and excuse me, a different one is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. You go through a breakup and watch that movie, look out. But as far Young at Heart is just you watch that movie. It was a smaller documentary about these older people that were in an old home, but they go and they're like a choir, but it breaks your heart, man, especially with your grandparents and stuff too. So that was one that got me.
Yeah. About Time is mine because
Time travel.
Yes, time travel. It brings a tear to my eye every time.
The time that you did it, right? The time you did it brings back
memories. I just stood in the closet and called. Because I lost my father to cancer as well, and this film came out about 2 or 3 years after he had passed, and I just started the process of accepting his death and recovering. That film broke me wide open, and I actually bought it a couple of weeks ago at the Costco for like $8.99 on Blu-ray, and I've watched it a couple times since. It's a really moving, powerful film about losing your parents. And so it's and what that does to you and the effect. It's beautifully done. And if you don't tear up, I don't know what to tell you.
The ending, man.
The conversation. That conversation between the last conversation. Well, I don't want to ruin it, but the conversation between the father and son is so powerful when it happens. And it's very moving. And I would say Hereafter, which a lot of people don't talk about or of a Clint Eastwood film. I think that film is an awesome exploration of what it's like to be removed from society and find your way back into it through your own means. And I thought it's one of Matt Damon's best performances that I've ever seen that no one talks about.
I'm glad you brought up Eternal Sunshine because that's one for me because I watched that right after a breakup of a long-term relationship and just watch. And then
it's like therapy though.
Oh yeah, it is, but it's tough to watch.
It's tough therapy,
especially because I've argued with some people about this. I think I argued with Roth about the ending because people take the ending in different ways. Because some people take it as that's an optimistic ending, and I take it as here we go again.
Really? See, I'll go the optimistic side.
Okay. Maybe that says something about me.
Yeah, no,
because I look at it, and I go. Well, what we just watched in this movie, we're just gonna go through that all over again.
But you know what it is that turns it into an optimistic is because that's kind of the point that Kate Winslet is making, is the point you're making, and Jim Carrey's okay.
Yeah,
that's the point. Is just if that's what we got to go through again, we're meant to be with one another, and if we have to go down that same path, it's going to happen again. But we've got to go through it together. That's what I loved. I've seen that. I just watched it again recently. It is still. If I was going to make a top 10, it's probably definitely in my 10.
Yeah, I would agree with you completely. It is definitely in my top 10 ever made. And you're right. That moment where she says that to him, and he says, the okay moment is the acceptance.
That's what it is.
Of the inevitability.
You take out the okay.
Yeah, because you're going to love who you're going to love, and there's people will talk you out of it, and there's no way out of it.
That's such a depressing part of it. Is that you can't help it,
right?
And you can't help it, and it's going to happen to you again.
It's inevitable.
All right, what's next?
Joe writes, "Hey guys, love the show. I've been listening for several months now. Quick question, are there any movies that you were really liking until you saw the ending for it and thus ending up hating the film. For me, it's High Tension and The Prestige. Stupid clones. Keep up the great work, gang.
Well, first off, I really like The Prestige. I think it's one
Yeah, I
of
do
Nolan's
too.
best movies, along with The Dark Knight and Inception. So I can't agree with you there. But there are movies that have endings. I don't know if there's anyone that I think of where the ending's so horrible that I hate the movie. But there are like really good movies that have endings that were kind of disappointing and kind of like I thought, okay, you could take this movie to the next level. One of them is L.A. Confidential is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Right.
And all they
You don't
needed
like
to do is cut off at the very end when Guy Pearce raises his police badge up and just fade it to black and end the movie. But then they tacked on that like kind of, I don't know, kind of cheesy little happy ending to it. What else? Speaking of Nolan, Interstellar, I didn't like the ending for that. I thought the middle part of that movie was amazing. I just didn't care for that ending. They could have left off with, I don't know, less of a Deus Ex Machina type of ending. Rocha, what do you got?
I mean, Signs, the water. I mean, it just was. It's 70% of the Earth's surface. If you're going to come conquer a planet, you would think you'd explore that and figure that out. It didn't kill the film for me because I think it was actually Shyamalan's last gasp as a good filmmaker. The majority of the film till the end. It's one of Gibson's best performances, and Joaquin's always good in that. And I would say I Am Legend. I loved I Am Legend up until the end because I'm like, wait, and are we allowed to say spoiler here and anything like
I
this?
think it's
I
old.
Legend,
It's old.
yeah,
It's
okay.
old enough.
I mean, he's a survivor. He constantly survives, and then he meets these two strangers, and near the end, he decides to sacrifice himself for them.
Yeah.
It just, I get the point they're trying to make. It just doesn't, because he's guilty. He feels the guilt. But if he's going to survive, how can he be guaranteed that those two aren't going to die without his care? And so I thought it was an odd ending. And of course, AI. Everything after.
Oh, yeah, that's on my list.
Yeah.
Everything after the Blue Angel is a waste of time.
Yeah.
It should have ended with him underwater, seeing the
Exactly.
Blue Angel fade to black.
Exactly.
Movie over.
The Wolverine is one like that stinking samurai at the end. the way that they did it. I was really enjoying it. Everything that was going on, I was so invested in it. And then at the end, it just kind of seemed like it was thrown in there, and they got studio notes or something. And the other thing, now stick with me because I know you're going to lose your mind here. Rocky V. Now,
yeah, well.
but wait, because you're like, well, wait a minute. How did you even like that movie up
Yeah,
until
yeah.
Rocky V? If you would have put Rocky, I hate Rocky V now.
Yeah.
If you would have put Rocky V, if Rocky would have fought in the ring, didn't die, fought Tommy Gunn in the ring with a really cool kind of like Clubber Lang fight, and it was an amazing fight, you would have forgave the majority of the movie, and the movie actually would have probably been a lot better because it's that stupid street fight at the end.
Yeah.
That you're just like, no, you want to see Rocky fight in the ring. So Rocky V to me was one.
No, Rocky V, I actually like the relationship of how his son was jealous of
Yeah.
him and Tommy Morrison. But yeah, you're right. That street fight was
It
terrible.
ruined the whole movie.
And I'm with you on AI. That it fade to black right when he goes in the water.
Yeah.
Not the stupid 2,000 years later and aliens come in and there's like a clone of his mom
Yeah.
or something like that.
It's all explaining everything. I thought that was Spielberg. That was Spielberg's part of that Kubrick movie.
Yes,
That's
yes,
what it felt
definitely.
like to me.
Oh, I forgot to mention one of my favorite sci-fi movies, Sunshine, has an ending that
yeah.
like doesn't make any sense. Like why? Because 3/4 of the movie is just pure science fiction,
Yeah.
and they kind of throw a supernatural / slasher / horror part at the very end. Didn't ruin the movie for me, but it definitely took off like a point off.
It's kind of how I felt about The Witch. That I just saw The Witch. And I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with me though. But I watched the entire film, and then the ending to me took it away from me a little bit. I was like, okay, that seemed a little cliched, but.
How about the ending of The Village? Did you guys like that?
I
ending?
didn't- I didn't see The
no,
Village.
no.
Oh, yes.
The ending of you're right. The ending
Yeah.
of The Village was a terrible reveal.
Yeah, right? Because everything about it was so great. And then
Yeah.
you're like, wait, what?
Right.
Wait, what? You're just like,
What's a twist?
All right, guys, that's it for Mailbag. Now onto your live Twitter questions. You can tweet us at Collider Video. Natasha, what do we got?
No Pants Daniel asks, do you feel movie preview cycles are too long? Advertising a 2-hour piece of content for 1.5 years seems crazy.
I think it all depends on the franchise. Is it a movie? That's why I like this that I talked about this before about that 10 Cloverfield Lane, like them just announcing
Yeah.
it. We get the stuff and then the movie. Because if it was a 1.5 years for that, there's no way there'd be that much buzz on it, and people would forget, and people would lose interest. So I think it depends on the franchise.
You're right, because like something like Cloverfield, no one knew at all that it was coming out. Then you put it out. Oh, and by the way, it's coming out soon. Great, I get to see this thing soon. Star Wars, you can do that a year ahead. Civil War, you can do that. See, I think that Batman v Superman, because I think originally it was supposed to come out in December of last year, so that's why they started advertising a little early. But I think that depending on the franchise, like you were saying, Dennis, and depending on how if they have a trailer that they can cut, or they have anything that they can show at a convention or anything too, a year for certain franchises work. Other ones, I think, between like 5 or 6 months out.
Absolutely. I think you both are absolutely right. It's all franchise based. And it's very similar to CDs or digital music, whatever they're calling it nowadays. Like Beyonce can drop one with 24 hours notice. People go insane and buy it by millions. Kanye's been talking about this Life of Pablo forever, and the interest
But
of
he's
it
broke
wanes.
now, right? Isn't Kanye
Supposedly.
broke? He's asking Zuckerberg for a bunch of
Yeah. But it's just that kind of thing. You can do a too far out promotion that can start to poke holes in your movie, like Superman versus Batman. A lot of people poke holes. It's a very divisive movie at this point. So, but I think your responsibility is to whet the appetite of the audience if you have the right franchise. And yeah, Star Wars showed you could do it effectively.
Yeah,
And
where's that Rogue One trailer?
I
want it now.
That was where I
teaser.
was going to go with that, because like Episode 7 can tease a year out, as where Rogue One isn't known to everyone too. So I think that the marketing play actually makes sense here. That we're going to get it probably in like a month or so before like Jungle Book.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Matt Stoker asks, what is the single biggest change that has happened to the film industry in the last 20 years?
Oh, man, that's tough.
Can I take this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do
I would
it.
say digital downloads.
Okay.
Digital downloads have changed everything. They're making DVDs and Blu-rays almost irrelevant. The fact that you go to a Best Buy and they're all mixed in now, when they used to have their own sections. I think that people are accumulating digital downloads in mass and saving them on. They're buying extra hard drives to just save movies on and watch whenever they want. Plus the fact that you can connect it to your television and watch on your television effectively without having to put anything into a system, any disc or anything into a system, is amazing.
Mine is similar to yours. Mine is digital acquisition and distribution. So being able to shoot digitally and then being able to distribute it digitally to the theaters and then also on VOD. I think that's changing the industry, and it's going to change it for in the future as well.
That's where I was going. I was going to go digital as well, just as far as it's like a big deal now when someone goes, "We're shooting on film." Like 20 years ago, someone's like,
That's a big deal to some people.
It's a story. We talk about it. Like
talk about
like the
it,
fact
but-
that Star Wars is shooting in 35 and everything too. Like,
But do you think the audience really cares about
no,
that?
I don't. Not as much, but it's a big change from the way, if you look at it as far as what the biggest change is, that you look at what filmmakers, the way the filmmakers shoot and the schedules and the way that it's easier to shoot on digital, and it's easy, and some purists like the Tarantinos of the world, like and even J.J. Abrams, they want to stick with the way that the film looks. So I would say that by going to digital is the biggest change.
And I have no problem with filmmakers choosing to shoot on film. I'm just saying I don't think it's a big enough a deal for an audience that actually will care about it. But I think the acquisition distribution is what the game changer is.
Admiral Dios makes a great point here in the chat room. He says the biggest change is more butter on his popcorn.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Henrik Grandlid asks, will we ever get another set of good high fantasy movies? Still staring sadly at the heap of garbage that came after Lord of the Rings.
Kristian?
Will we get some fantasy movies? Yeah, I think we will, and I think that it's just. I think that it's harder to make the original ones, even the ones based off the books. But I think we can get some good ones. I'd like to see a remake or a sequel to Legend, the Ridley Scott movie. I'd like to see Dark Crystal. I'd like to see some more with that. I still think that Masters of the Universe, and I've been saying this forever, if you mix it. Please get McGee out of there. But if you mix it with sci-fi meets fantasy, that is an epic franchise. And again, I have met McGee. He is the nicest guy on the planet.
Nice guy.
He is a super nice guy. There could not be a wrong person to direct this. JTE could direct this thing before he did. So.
Rocha.
I would say that this gentleman has a valid point, even though I disagree with this premise, because I'm one of the few people on the planet who likes the Hobbit trilogy. So I love the dwarfs. What can I tell you? But I would say it's really difficult because young adult stuff is taking over. These franchises are doing, and superhero franchises. So it's really hard to shoehorn a fantasy trilogy in there. So it might be a while until one grabs our attention in mass as a public. I don't see there's one that's jumping out that people are
Warcraft.
clamoring. Oh yeah, but does that trailer excite you? I'm a little on the edge about it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And Duncan Jones, I'm a big fan of because of Moon
Duncan's
and Source
great.
Code.
Yes.
Wait and see how that does. But for me, Lord of the Rings was the one that brought fantasy at least more to the mainstream. And it won so many Oscars. I think another game changer, though, is possibly Game of Thrones. Even though we're talking about television,
True.
it's an R-rated, adult fantasy. And people are talking about this whole, with Deadpool it being R and bringing in this, maybe superheroes going to be all R-rated. I'm hoping that something, whether Game of Thrones comes to the movies or a Game of Thrones type fantasy, breaks out in the movie theaters, and then maybe we can see an incoming batch of those versus the like Seventh Son, that crap.
That doesn't help its cause.
No, it doesn't. And fantasy costs a lot of money, just like superhero movies do,
Yeah.
and so you've got to make your money back.
We talked about yesterday was Willow. Like to see maybe Willow 2 or a sequel to Willow or a prequel to Willow, whatever it is like that. That'd be interesting to see if Lucasfilm will go ahead and do that.
All right, what's next?
Rye Hickson asks, since Harper Lee just died, will we see a remake of To Kill a Mockingbird in our lifetimes?
I don't think so, because it just for the times it was such a relevant movie for the times, and that's one movie that I don't really I don't know, I don't want to see that movie made now.
I think they will. I think they will. It's such a classic that eventually someone is going to remake it, and as long as they do it right and keep it faithful to the book.
Yeah.
Or, unless maybe they do a modern retelling, maybe that could be.
Yeah, but that's just make an original movie then. I don't know.
What can I tell you? I'm a huge fan of that classic film, and it would drive me insane if they remade it.
Yeah.
If they do it, sometimes they'll do it in TV, like they redid 12 Angry Men, they remade all these other classic films, and they did TV versions of them. That might work. But if they remade this, it would give Hollywood the perfect opportunity to reverse the Oscars So White campaign. They would throw all the Oscars in the world at that film if they remade it effectively. And you possibly could. You could see Idris Elba as the slave. You could see, I don't know, maybe Fassbender as the lawyer, as Atticus Finch as the Gregory Peck character. Certainly all kinds of possibilities. And there are definitely a lot of younger female actresses and child actresses that are working now that could work effectively. But it would just be dangerous. It's because some people revere that movie for so many reasons.
I actually just heard this morning on the radio that Aaron Sorkin was rumored to want to do like a theater adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, that would be
I could
great.
see that happening.
I love that.
All right, what's next?
Brendan Barry asks, do you think movies tend to do better in bad economic times? For example, Gone with the Wind in 39 and Avatar in 09?
I mean, there is that theory that more people go to the movies because if they're depressed or there's less things to do. I mean, that they also say that about McDonald's, that in depressions or in recessions that more people will go to McDonald's. Actually sells more because people have less money and they have I don't know. Do I think that's true or not? I don't think so anymore, at least because we have so many ways to entertain ourselves now. You got video games, comic books, movies, television. You can watch VOD. You got Netflix, Amazon. There's just so many ways to entertain yourself. So I don't know if movies is necessarily the go-to one anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think for what you're saying in regards to there's so many different mediums, that's where you go back. That was like the one, and that, and maybe some live theater. But yeah, I don't think so.
I think it all depends on the movie. If the movie's a hopeful movie like Avatar was, and it touches something going on in the cultural zeitgeist, it'll make the money. But the movie's prices are getting so high, a lot of people don't want to go. It's almost like going to the ball game now. You're spending $100 at the theater or $150 at the theater for your family and concessions and the movie prices.
Pick and choose.
Yeah, you got to pick and choose. So it's a lot more dangerous to do it that way. So I think occasional films will blow up, but not
like
mass.
a Star Wars.
Yeah,
Star Wars.
But it won't be across the board.
All right, what's next?
All right. Dylan asks, after hearing about a live-action Astro Boy film, I feel like a live-action Mega Man film will have more success. Thoughts?
If you're going to compare the two, then I actually would agree with you more to where I think it could serve well as a fun animation. I don't know, not live action though, because that's what they're doing with Astro Boy.
How do you do the character? I mean, the whole selling point of Mega Man is the way he looks. How do you translate into
animated.
live action.
Yeah.
I think a 3D animated film. I mean, he's definitely no more recognizable than Astro Boy.
Right.
So you have that, but yeah, I would go 3D animated.
Yeah, plus that big blue head.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we're talking.
No,
you're,
Mega Man.
You're thinking
No,
of
I'm joking.
okay, Mega Man.
Mega Mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, I'm joking. But no, Mega Man. It would be interesting. It's always tough to translate those type of properties into live action. I mean, there's that rumor of Simpsons, or actually it's going to happen. Simpsons is doing a live action Simpsons. I'm like this about it, because you're so used to seeing it in a certain way, because that form or that media works better for that property or that franchise, and Mega Man works better in a certain way. Animated works better. 3D makes total sense. Live action would just you would lose so much in the translation.
You're crazy. The Flintstones was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Chipmunks too, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
God. Stinking shit.
All right.
Oh god.
What's next?
Dylan Davidson asks, which TV villain do you think would transfer well to the big screen? I think Zoom from The Flash and Kilgrave would be good.
Absolutely with Zoom.
All right, why don't you start?
Well, absolutely with Zoom. What a great thing. I'm such a fan of that character and how he seems to transcend the show. He really makes the show into a whole nother type of TV that you haven't seen in a long time. Because of the foundation of it is a CW foundation, but Zoom takes it out of it. TV villain, probably, I don't know, maybe Frank Underwood from House of Cards. If you could see him in like an Aaron Sorkin written and well-directed film that explored that as possibility, or anybody from Game of Thrones. Like, seriously, would be a fantastic villain who we've seen Lena Headey do that many times.
That's where I was going to go with Game of Thrones, with any one of the villains from Game of Thrones.
I go with Kingpin from Daredevil.
Yeah.
You could make a Kingpin movie rated R with Daredevil and Punisher in it. I think it would. I don't know if it would do well at the box office, but I think it would be a good movie.
I would like to see that.
All right, let's do two more.
Kylau Ren asks, which franchise do you think might be in store for an unwanted reboot in the near future?
Unwanted. Man, they talked. I mean, they kept mentioning Jaws, and you better leave that alone. That's one I would not want to see. I wouldn't want to see Back to the Future. They've rumored it, but then it's been shot down. I don't know. I don't know what's going to be rebooted that I don't want to see yet.
I would say Die Hard. If they rebooted Die Hard, I don't want to see.
And they kind of are, right? With year one, where they're doing.
What are we year one? Does that mean this has always been happening to John McClane? And then he's just this like Bermuda Triangle of trouble that everything happens within this certain this dude. It just, all of that is like, he's not a comic book character. Like, he's a real person. Supposedly, that's what was so appealing about Die Hard. He's a real guy, just like all of us, in a situation, and he's trying to get out of it. And if you start to go year one, you start to go backstory, and he's got some person who trained him from the Orient. Like, get out of here. Like, so I would hate to see a Die Hard reboot. Willis did it. It was great. Let's all move on. There's other things to make.
So this is franchises we don't want rebooted.
Don't.
Right.
Okay. Godfather.
Yeah.
There's
But
always
do you think
people-
it's going to happen?
You're
That was
right.
a question.
I heard rumors of they were going to do like a Godfather TV show or TV series or something like that. I don't know about the movie. They probably will at some point, but I don't know if you can recapture what happened in that film. Yeah. All right. Well, it's the last question.
Emil Johansson asks, what do you think was the main problem with Green Lantern? Ryan Reynolds, the acting, or maybe the directing or screenplay? Thanks.
I'm not going to blame Ryan Reynolds for it, because I don't blame him. I think that the studio had no idea what they wanted to do with the movie at the time. There's no direction. They were just kind of throwing up superhero movie to try to do what Marvel was doing, and they had no direction at all. I liked the director, but I didn't think that it worked. I think I'd blame the director and studio direction.
I blame the direction of the movie in terms of choosing to tell most of the story on Earth. They should have done it out in space. All the space stuff was the best part.
Yeah.
Like, obviously this was pre-Guardians of the Galaxy, so they were, more hesitant to do it. I think now if they were to do it, they're like, okay, let's spend the money and actually do kind of a space opera type story. And I think that's its biggest flaw.
Yeah, you make a great point, Dennis. Everything that happened out in space, all his training, everything like that, everything going on with the corpse was great. Inside joke with the Green Lantern Corps was great. I mean, it was great to see that come to life. And the Guardians were awesome. The Oa Guardians were so great to see come to life in space. But as soon as it got down to Earth and you had the Blake Lively stuff, and you had all that stuff that really didn't work. The film lost itself. And you're right, I don't blame Reynolds either. I think Reynolds was doing his thing. You cast Ryan Reynolds, that's who you're going to get. When you watch Deadpool, it's Ryan Reynolds, and so that's what makes that film work. It's in a better situation, and that's why it works better than Green Lantern did. And definitely studio and the director, definitely.
All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. Thanks for joining us. I want to thank the people joining us at the table. John Rocha, where can people find you?
You can find me at The Rocha Says on Instagram, on Twitter, and I will want to correct a couple of things. I know these were buy segments, so I bought both of them, and I know that in To Kill a Mockingbird, he wasn't a slave. He was just an African-American worker. There we go. But I do want to say one thing to Scott Mantz, who might be listening. The trivia schmodown is coming.
Uh-oh.
So listen to me, you salt and pepper cocaine donkey. The Rocha is coming for you. Because The Rocha says, I want that title around my waist. I want to be the champion. And you tell Riley, too. You can tell Riley. You tell JTE. You tell anybody else. The outlaw is coming. And let me tell you something. I'm coming like Hogan. NWO. I'm laying the smackdown, and I'm going to chop your mountain down like a voodoo chop. You listen, and you pay attention. You look in my eyes. Do you hear me, Mance? Access Hollywood. I'm going to break you. I'm going to break you so sweetly. You're going to be panhandling. We'll do trivia for food by the time I'm done with you. And I'm out.
Wow.
Well, following our best outro ever, Kristian, where can people find you?
Oh, man. I've been looking forward to that match. What I would ask you guys to do after that one is tell at Movie Mance that Rocha's talking some smack. I mean, look at that. Rocha's talking about winning. You're 0-0, buddy. It's going to be a lot of stuff happening on the Schmodown, the movie trivia contest, as you've seen from this maniac to my left. Make sure that you guys suggest exactly who you want to see in the future. Look, I'll put you up against nobody. So, guys, again, it's coming soon. It'll be in March. And just in case some of you, if you've never seen the Schmodown or don't know what it is, I just put a playlist of the 2014 Schmodown single matches on the Schmoes channel. So just go to the Schmoes. If you're not already subscribed, obviously do that. But check out the first playlist. It has the Schmodown match. You can watch all the matches there. And suggest in these comments, who do you want to see go up against each other? I'm working on some really good ones.
All right, and Natasha, where can people find you?
I mean, I just have to say, this is the first time I'm meeting you, Rocha. You were like so calm and composed, and I'm a little scared now. You guys can find me on Instagram at Natasha A. Martinez and on Twitter at NatashaLexis_.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero, on Instagram, Dennis.tzng. And I want to remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/collidervideos. And we will see you guys next week. Oh, don't forget, we got Mailbag this weekend. Me and Kristian are going to be on that.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.